I was thinking the other day when we went to make the down payment on this house and we were walking around the neighborhood, there's this cute little library near there in Villa Yale. And I got emotional when we were in the library because it reminded me of the little library I used to go to when I was a kid. I grew up in New Jersey in the US. I was like, oh yeah, if we have kids, this would be the little neighborhood library we come to. I had those little moments like that where it just hits me, the reality of like raising kids and having a life so far away from the life that I grew up with. I remember one day I got weirdly sad about books because for me, like when I was a kid, reading stories was a big thing. I realized that I don't know like the stories here. I didn't grow up here. So what are the classic childhood books? I don't know them.
Welcome to International Love Story, the podcast about intercultural relationships. My name is Christina, and before I'm going to welcome today's podcast guests, I would like to make a little announcement. Usually I don't use my platforms for a lot of advertising, but this is something I think you should definitely check out if you are a woman and if you're dating interculturally. Because since approximately 6 months, I'm building a community for women who are dating someone from another country, and you can be part of it. We've reached a point where we are around 80 women, and we connect on a regular basis. We have community calls, and I want you to be part of it. Therefore, check out the links you'll find in the description of the video as well as in the description of the podcast episode. I have a WhatsApp group, but I also have a school community. Especially in the school community, I provide a lot of valuable advice. You will find a guideline of 25 plus pages about communication in an intercultural relationship, but also a full guideline of more than 60 pages for moving and adapting abroad. And both guidelines, they include checklists and valuable tips and stories of other intercultural couples. So if this is for you, don't miss out on it. Check it out. I can't wait to see you in either the WhatsApp group or in the school community. With this being said, let's give a warm welcome to Fede and Elle. They started as a one-night stand. Their story is actually very similar to not just mine. They would not be really much in contact for approximately 2 years until they would see each other again. But that's a story they both can tell so much better than I could possibly do. So let's give a warm welcome to Elle and Fede.
My name is Elle. I'm originally from the US and live in Buenos Aires.
Okay, that's it.
For now.
My name is Federico. I like husband, and I born and raised in Buenos Aires. Waiting for your questions.
Ready for my questions? Okay, we'll see. Because we had a little pre-talk, so they're the one or the other thing we're going to tackle today. But what I'm mostly interested in is obviously, first of all, how you guys met each other. Like, what was the setting? How did it feel like?
So I first came to Buenos Aires 5 years ago. So November 2019, I came to Buenos Aires as part of a co-living program. I was sort of new to being a digital nomad, and I had done this program in Medellin in that fall, and I thought it was fun. I was just looking for something that was kind of in the same time zone, that it's aligned with the US work-wise. So I came here for a month, and I thought I would keep going. I was sort of new to this digital nomad thing, and I was having fun. So the program was from just November 2019. And then my idea was that I was going to stay through the holidays because I wanted to go to Patagonia. So I went to Patagonia, I went to Antarctica, and then I just came back to Buenos Aires and I just kind of fell in love with the city and I stayed. It was in January 2020 that I had heard about this thing called Internations, which is like an expat locals meetup. So I thought I would just go check it out. I was literally going to go for one drink and meet a friend. So I walked in, and you know when you go to something for the first time and you have to kind of like psych yourself up because you don't know anybody. So I was like, okay, you could do this. So I went to the bathroom, kind of psyched myself up. I was coming in to get my drink ticket, and you came up to me and you said hi. And I was like, I thought you were the organizer or something. So I just like blew past him. And then I was sitting at the bar ordering my drink. And then you came over again and you were like, oh, she talks.
Yeah.
So then we started chatting. Feddy's English was really good. It made it a lot easier to talk to him than some other people I'd been dating. We definitely had a spark right off the bat. Yes, we spent the whole night talking. Then we went to another place with somebody else.
Yeah.
It's Argentina, so that was 3 a.m. when we got out of there. We had a fair amount of wine. And conveniently, we were really close to my apartment at the time. So we just walked back to my apartment and spent the night. And then I never saw him again for another 2 years.
Yeah, she has to come back. She went to Brazil in February. The idea is to come back. The original idea was to come back to Buenos Aires in April of 2020. But of course, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we keep in touch, and we met again when they reopened the border here in November, December 21.
We had 2 years of really getting to know each other without dating. I left here in February of 2020. We only hung out that one time. I think we texted a little bit, but we didn't see each other again. Then I went to Brazil, and then I went to the US for what I thought was just going to be a visit. I thought I would keep traveling, but the pandemic happened while I was in the US. So for those next 2 years, other things, I was in the US traveling around, and we started talking like a lot. I think what helped our relationship a lot was that we weren't dating. There was obviously that romantic element, but we were both seeing other people, and we were pretty open about that. We had a really good foundation of a friendship. Yeah, we had a lot of honesty. And there was also this constant uncertainty when they kept changing the rules around when the borders would open. And so it was the end of 21 that I decided I would come back.
You were able to come back.
Yeah. And that was a big deal because at that point I had bought a house in the US. I always hadn't said that I would maybe spend half my time in the US and half my time traveling. So I had bought a house in the US sort of with that intention. But then when it came time to come back here, it was exciting and it was sort of scary because I thought this relationship might go somewhere. But at the same time, if it didn't, it was scary because I felt like I was, giving up my life in the US to some extent to come here for something that I thought might work, but you never really know. So there was definitely I had some fears around that, making that big transition. So I told myself I would just come for 6 months. I rented my house out, but I had a date that I knew I was going back to the US. That's what made it feel a bit easier in the beginning. And that first year that I came back, we didn't live together. I had my own apartment and he had his apartment. But I would say from the day he picked me up at the airport, and we only see each other once, right? So you met me in the Havana in the airport, and then I was like, "You're real, and you smell good." I mean, that wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, I would like to go back again, Federico, because I'm also interested in how you remember the moment you met Elle for the first time. How was it for you when you had this bubbly American standing in front of you?
I saw her and I liked her and I just went there. Yeah. I was talking with one of, maybe she get confused because I know, have known them forever. They're the organizer. So I was at the table. And when she came, I think that's why you.
Oh, maybe that's why I thought you were going to.
I was with Romina and Mariana.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like ambassadors. It's a well-known NGO that starts is for expats and local people. It starts in Germany originally from Germany.
Yeah, I know Internations very well as well. It's amazing. It's a great platform to really get a lot of information, especially if you move abroad to connect with people. But I didn't know that it's so big in Buenos Aires as well. I didn't see so many events. Maybe I'm just mistaken.
Official events, they have 2 every month, but then they have subcategories. Mm-hmm. If you like theater, if you like movies, if you like, go outdoors, indoors, museum, you name it. They have different categories, so smaller groups.
So you are friends with the organizers of this event, and
I was talking with them, and I saw Elle, and I just went for it.
So she entered the room, and she just came from the bathroom, and you just went for it.
Yeah. Because I haven't seen her the first time she came, because I go directly to the bathroom. I see when she was coming out. And that was it.
That was it?
That was it.
You picked her up from the airport end of 2021. You had a coffee, and then that's basically where you started dating officially as well.
Yeah.
So it flicked again.
Yeah, that was December 21.
But I don't know when we were dating, but I don't know when we kind of.
I think it was.
When we really said.
I was 2-3 months. And then she stayed here until May 22. And then I take leave in my office. I worked remotely for 3 months, and I went to the States from July to October 22. And then you came out.
Then I came back. So there was I went back to the US in May. We didn't see each other for 1 or 2 months.
Yeah.
Then he came to the US for 3 months.
Yeah.
Which was a big deal because we hadn't lived together. So really, like, we sort of lived together for the first time, like at my mom's house for a month.
And then in New Mexico.
And then I had a house in New Mexico that I'd rented. We went to New Mexico together for a month. And that's when we really first lived together in our own house, which was my house in the US. And that was fun. We explored around. He'd never been to that part of the country, so we explored around. We went to Texas, and then we came back. He moved out of his house, his solo apartment, and we moved in together.
Yeah.
It was kind of gradual. We had phases.
There was a bit of long distance dating for 1 or 2 months in between, and you were able to see each other, and it went from basically distance dating to like 24/7 again. How was that experience though? We've been through that as well, and I find it very interesting. Like, at least I ask myself every time we would see each other again, does he still smell the same? Is it still the same person? Did he change? You know, if you're not able to see each other for like maybe 4 or 5 months, at least that was in our case. And then you would have all those butterflies again before seeing each other. And it, like, my mind just played crazy. I don't know. How was it for you in between those meetings?
How was for you?
I think we're both pretty independent people, which really helps. But there have been times for sure where, like, now I think now we've decided that
we were used to be alone. That is a thing.
Yeah.
It's not about missing a person in this case, Elle. It's about living with someone else after so many years of living by yourself. That was the thing in the beginning.
Yeah, getting used to sharing. It's nice, but I don't like the TV as much as he likes having the TV on, or just little things like that, you know, just little ways of adjusting to.
And read or see news, anything.
Yeah,
I would like to
have the TV, and he likes to watch the news.
No.
I like to go to bed earlier. So I think we've adjusted to each other, and but that was, of course, a bit of an adjustment. And I think we've decided now that more than 2 or 3 weeks apart it's kind of like, it starts to take a toll on the relationship. I think that now I feel more secure in our relationship, but maybe in the beginning I would start wanting more words of affection from you if we hadn't talked in a while, and he's not such a words of affection person. He's gotten better. But I remember that coming up sometimes in the beginning. I would start getting a little anxious kind of when we hadn't, because we would just talk and you'd be like, oh, I'm going to the gym and here's he just did like kind of his day to day. And I wanted more like, I miss you and reassurance.
Yeah, but obviously you've managed that somehow. And as you've just said, you found a middle way. Was there like cultural wise a big difference as well when you started living together? Anything specific you have in mind thinking about it?
What do you think?
I think I've adjusted to the bedtimes here. So
that is a big difference. Dinner time, bedtime, everything starts later here.
I think it's actually harder for him when he comes to the US.
See.
Because my family wants to have dinner like at 6 or 6:30.
Sometimes even sooner.
He doesn't like
earlier. That. No, we are getting together for dinner, 5 p.m. It's coffee time.
It's merienda. Yeah.
For normal people over there, it's dinner time.
Yeah.
For normal people.
I'm fine with having dinner at 9:30. But even now, when I go back to the U.S., my brother has young kids, so they eat dinner like at 6 because they go to bed at 8, right? 8:30. And it feels like it really shortens the whole day.
Yeah, we don't do that. I mean, once every now and then in the U.S., maybe, of course, but
yeah,
that is a huge difference, actually. Yeah.
I definitely need some tips later, Elle, how you adjusted to that, because I don't think I'll be ever able to adjust to late dinner times and going out at 1 a.m. coming back at 6 a.m. I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, that I've never done.
Well, we are old. We don't do that anymore, unfortunately. If we're gonna do that, we need to sleep a siesta, take a little nap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Okay, so I'm not the only one.
Going out at 1 a.m.
But we have dinner around 9 p.m.
Yeah, we usually eat like 8:30.
We don't have dinner that late.
I think we found a happy middle ground there.
But 6 p.m. no. That is a big no.
And in terms on communication, in which language are you communicating? Like, in which language did you meet, and in which language are you communicating nowadays?
We met in English. I still think we speak primarily in English.
We try to talk more in Spanish lately, but yeah, I would say 80% in English.
Because he'll get frustrated, yeah, like his English is better than my Spanish. And sometimes I'm like not there, like my brain is not in Spanish mode, especially in the morning. And he'll just start like, and I actually feel like kind of annoyed because I haven't turned my Spanish brain on yet.
You are not the morning person, even if I speak in English.
Or then he'll get frustrated, yeah, because I didn't understand what he said, so it's easier for him to say in English sometimes.
No, because then she complained that I don't speak in Spanish. I say, well, when I try to, you are like...
I'm not there. But no, I think we're doing better. And for me, it's a big adjustment when we go to his family's house, because like I'm from a family where everyone speaks in turn, and we wait for, we take turns talking, and raising your voice was kind of frowned upon. And so it's definitely an adjustment for me with his family, where there's a lot of yelling.
Everyone,
it sounds to me like yelling.
Everyone tops on top of everyone else, let's say. I mean, that's just like, I wouldn't say we are yelling, but yeah.
It sounds something. But they're smiling. They're not. I mean, they're smiling, but everyone's talking all at once. I can't keep up with what's going on. I'm not fast enough to get my own concept, my own words in there. So I'm just quiet at family dinner.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I had bigger issues in the beginning when I did not speak Spanish, and I actually thought that they're screaming at each other because you don't understand the context. And then it's just very aggressive in a way. And now it's just fun to watch. But I can only participate in such a conversation for maximal 1 hour. And then I feel like I have to take a nap. I can't handle it any longer. It's too much Spanish. They're all just super loud, going on top of each other. I'm not used to that because in Germany, it's similar to the US where you let each other speak. But usually it's like more like one after the other talking and contributing to the conversation. I find that very interesting as well here in Latin America.
But the thing here, you will realize that in general, everyone talks like that and really loud, but it's not issue over there. The issue, you will realize that happens when everyone makes silence.
Yeah.
And only you hear two people talk. And then you say, oh, okay. And then you realize something came up.
What I especially love, and I'm also sharing that quite often on social media, is how outgoing Argentinians are when it comes to politics and economy. I feel like you're very much aware of what's going on in your country, and it's a big part of family conversations. That's quite different to how I grew up. In my family, that's usually never a topic at family dinners.
The issue, if you read some history, our country, I mean, you have to. It's a must do because you need to be a survivor here with all the economical crisis and such. You need to be aware and really be on top of these issues because it's affecting your life directly. It's not just a way of saying. In the US, in Europe, it really doesn't matter who really wins the election other than those 2, 3, 4 months of campaigning. Life goes on, and in 4 years you have another election. In this country, maybe you have another election in 6 months, 1 year. You never know. So that's why it's so important to be on top of these issues. And of course, in the last 15, 20 years, I would say, a lot of families and friends stopped seeing and talk each other because of this. We call the grieta is the gap between those who think white and those who think black. Unfortunately, every year it's getting more, far apart.
But that's how I think it is in the US. Like my mom, we have Thanksgiving dinner or something, and my mom will always say, especially if we have family friends and stuff, don't talk about religion and don't talk about politics. It's sort of seen as like those are not topics of conversation or they're potentially dangerous topics. So talk about sports, weather. Oh, yeah.
My youngest brother fought with a couple of months with a friend for politics. And that's why I was telling you now, doesn't matter about when someone is raising their voice, you will realize there is a problem when someone else makes silent. And that happens because they were arguing, my brother and a friend, about politics.
About Milei.
Yeah, about the press.
So they're not friends anymore because of this?
I wouldn't say they are not friends anymore, but they don't talk
they got heated
anymore.
During this.
It gets heated up, yeah. It gets really heated up. Yeah, everyone else makes silence. Because you realize this is something there because they are talking loud, of course, but the rest just make silence and they keep raising their voices. Even if you don't follow the conversation, you will realize something come up. Yeah.
That's good to know. So I have to keep an ear on that as well. Next family get together, really listen to the conversation to know what's going on.
Everyone is talking, right? That is normal. If you only hear out of nowhere only 2 people talks, something happens for sure.
For you, Elle, to just back in Buenos Aires, because your original idea was to go back to the US because you bought a house there. And then your plans kind of changed and eventually you ended up moving to Buenos Aires, even though you knew it beforehand already. But I do feel like there's a difference between coming here for a couple of months and really living here. So how was it for you?
I think as it happened, I was here and then during the pandemic, I couldn't be here. I came for 6 months and then I was back. So every time I go back to the US for the US summer, like July and August, and I feel like that is my little gap every year. And then I come back. I tend to think of my life in Buenos Aires as like chapters. This is chapter 5. And every summer is like a reset. So this is chapter 5. So that kind of like every chapter has a different kind of focus or vibe, I guess. It's been a progression. The first time I was here when I was just totally tourist, it was really fun. Like we didn't really even know each other. We only met once during that whole time that I was here. And then there was a time when we just came to know each other. And then the second time I came back, we lived together. Yep. And then because we were more established at that point, I tried to focus more on like having my own friends here and not being so focused just on him and more on creating my own life here.
You make some great.
I made my own friends. Every year I've tried to have a little bit of a focus in how I expand because I'm pretty independent too. I need to have my own life here that doesn't feel so tied up in him. I think that has been really important for me.
You always stay longer in the US also.
Yeah.
She always stays longer than me also. She's playing victim, but...
Yeah, in the summertime, they go for like 2-3 months.
Yeah, I know, but you stay longer than me. I go there 1 month, and you stay like another...
Because of your work. Yeah, because he usually get like 1 month remote. I think that helps to have like that little summer reset where I go back to the US and see my family and then I come back here. I've noticed that in May or June, it's kind of coming to the end of my time here, I start to just have less patience. You know, I started getting just tired, mentally tired, I think, from living in a different place where... Yeah, like my tolerance for language issue. Like I remember one time, this was maybe like a year or 2 ago. Normally I try to order a coffee and practice my Spanish and this and that. And it's maybe a year or 2 ago. I went to order a coffee at the coffee shop. And normally I'd be offended if they tried to speak to me in English. I was just like, yes, give me a cappuccino. You know, I was tired. Then I go away for the summer and then I come back in September and I'm refreshed. I have a new chapter and this is my focus for this time. And I get back into studying Spanish and whatever I'm working on. So I think that's really helped. And it's also been like a bit of an identity from this idea of being a digital nomad. I could be anywhere. That felt very open, right? And then I was like, am I a digital nomad or am I an expat? This sort of progression of identity, I guess. And now we're married and we're buying a house here. I had a little freak out the other day about buying a house, even though I'm really excited about this. Yeah, it was a big freak out. Combination of everything, like excitement about this house. And we've been trying to buy this house for a year. Between when we move into that house and leave this apartment, we're going back to be nomads for 2 months. And the idea of not having our own space for 2 months, I started trying to figure out all the flights and all the travel. And he's not really much of a planner. So he's like, I said, let's do it. I was like, well, that means somebody has to actually book all of it.
Book some.
Yeah, we made some progress. So it's really exciting, but it's just like, now we're like property owners. Like it gets more real. Like more.
Congratulations, by the way. I mean, that's a big milestone. And I would have freaked out for sure, 100,000% like this as well.
That's why it's a good balance between us, because someone has to be worried about things and someone has to be calm. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Sometimes you overdo it and sometimes I overdo it, being calm.
Yeah, you're like, oh, it's fine. We'll just
fine.
I'm like, you need to book things.
Of course, yeah, but one thing is to plan, another thing to be crazy about it.
Yeah, but I have come down in my needing to have a plan. I used to be a finance and operations manager, so I love a spreadsheet. I like numbers. I like having things organized. I have chilled out in that regard. I think something else that we've had to find a compromise around is like, so I guess I have this American idea. We joke about being productive because it's just so ingrained in me, right? To like be productive, to get things done, to hustle, especially because I work for myself. And he's had the same job for 20 years. He has this really strong philosophy that Sundays are just for families and you shouldn't do anything on Sundays. So when we were planning our wedding last year, and I'd be like, well, Sunday, let's like do something for the wedding. Like, let's try to get some things done. And he'd be like, no, we can do it on Monday.
I think that is an American scene also. That's why they only have 2 weeks holidays, you know. They can have more. They get crazy, you know. They don't have to cheat on each other.
He's helped me get more, like, be more trunky and not feel like I have to do things so much.
It's not about thing to have free time for yourself. Yeah. Relax.
Something we had to learn as well, by the way. It's interesting because In our case, it's the same combo. So I'm the one who wants to plan, who wants to be organized, who has to have everything in order, who doesn't mind working on the weekends, while it's not just like, chill. We're gonna take care of it. Well, we have to take care of it. There's no reason to worry about it yet. We worry about it once the problem occurs. So there's everything else just doesn't make sense. And I know he's right, but it's still like so difficult for me to take myself back and be like, okay, chill, relax, everything will be fine. But I think because you have one part that's a little bit more pushy and the other one that's a little bit more calm, that's also what you've just mentioned. This is why it works. So if both would be quite lean back, I don't think the result will be equally good.
Yeah. We always make the same joke at the office that if our president were from Germany, Argentina were a superpower in 10 years. But everyone will be bored because we are not used to be, organized and all that. I mean, it's for us, the improvisation and the hustle is part of our life. If you have everything programming and it's like A, B, C, D, like that, at some point you get bored because, you get things done. That is great. But at the same time, you need that spark,
Yeah, but I started to appreciate this part because in Germany, we're not flexible anymore. The system doesn't allow us to be flexible. This will backfire because we'll not be able to keep up with everyone else. So let's talk about that in 10 years again, and we'll see how Argentina is doing and how Germany is doing.
You're going to work this out for sure.
There's a middle ground.
Germany always does it.
Like too rigid and too flexible. Like neither one works. You have to have that kind of middle ground. Enough structure to get things done, but also a flexibility to rise with what comes.
Exactly. We used to be like that in sports. So that's why we didn't win anything. We start organized, and then they make fun of German. They say, no, German doesn't have the talent or whatever. They have 4 World Cups. Imagine if they did have talent. Without talent, they win 4 times. Why? Because they are organized. Because they're planned. That is the thing that could sum up our history. You have Messi. Okay, great. How many World Cups win Messi in 6 times? 1. That says a lot about the country, not just Messi.
Yeah, there might be actually some truth with that. Talking about organization, planning, flexibility. You've mentioned it a couple of times already. Let's talk about your weddings, plural. Because you had one in the US and you had one in Argentina. Mm-hmm. Who took care of the planning? How was it?
Almost everything, yeah.
We got engaged towards the end of June, like a year and a half ago.
In Argentina, it was easier.
Much easier here.
The thing in the US is like you have a lot of vendors for many activities, for different things. Here we have one vendor. I go there, I talk with one vendor, it's Canos. They take care of everything. You pay and that's it. They take care. You go, you show up, you pay monthly, that's it. You don't have to worry about the makeup, you don't have to worry about the catering.
So in a way, well, after we got engaged, I said, okay, you're in charge of finding the venue in Argentina because I didn't know where to start. Like I had no idea. So he found this company, Hanos, that they're like a factory for weddings and quinceañeras, which was great. We didn't have to, like they basically gave us like a package. They're like, okay, the package has X, Y, like all this stuff. I didn't even know what we signed up for, to be honest. Like half the stuff in the thing, I was like, okay. So, and even though we had this package and we had to pick certain things in the package and had meetings with them, they did do a lot, but still like everything here is just like somehow like more complicated than it would be in the US. Like these wedding rings, right? We had to go to like downtown 3 times. And it's like a big trip to go down to Microcentro to check it out, to get our names engraved, to go back. Each of these trips just feels like it eats in, it's like 2 hours of your day. So it was cool. We designed our own rings, but all those things felt like they kind of, or like I got into this is actually quite cool. I had my dress made here. I got a dress in the US, you order a dress and then they say it'll come in like 6 months. So I ordered it in September. I thought I would just get a simple dress at Zara or something. But Federico's brother's mother-in-law is a dressmaker and she offered to make me a dress. So I couldn't say no. I ended up having a custom wedding dress, which was quite cool. It was cool to see the whole process of how someone designed the dress from scratch. But it was like a lot of trips back and forth, like all of that. And we did dance lessons, also super cool. But like all of those things just really did like take a lot of mental time and energy.
Oh, that's also, I think, it's a cultural difference. The personal meetings and everything here. Over there is like, okay, you want to customize this, okay, pay me, you will have it in 3-4 months, that's it. No, come here, come to the office, drink a coffee with me, talk with me, tell me what you want, I can offer to you. Let's find a middle ground. It's more, I would say, Italian thing.
Yeah, more relational, which for me sometimes it was nice, but it was like, oh, this is another 2 hours out of my day. By the time we go there and come back, that stuff took up time and energy out of my life. Looking back, it was cool. We were creating something. I think the big difference was even though they had this company and we would have meetings with them and we went through the whole run of show, like I had never been to an Argentine wedding. So I kept being like, what could we possibly do for 8 hours? I couldn't wrap my head around how the time was going to be spent. And even though they kind of explained it, I still didn't really get it until I was actually at it, like at my own wedding.
It's like 1 hour and a half.
Okay. But in comparison, I had hired a day of wedding planner in the US. So I still had to contract all the vendors and do a lot of that myself. But the day of wedding planner was still massively helpful. The whole spring leading up to it, every Friday, she would send me a little, like, here's where we're at email with a list of topics, super organized every Friday, a little email. Whereas the wedding planner here, we'd sit down with her for like 3-hour meeting in Spanish to go through and stuff. And I was thinking, like, is she writing it down? Is she paying attention? I needed to see it on paper, you know?
Also.
And I was trying to take notes because I had no frame of reference really, because I hadn't been to that kind of wedding. But then the day of was amazing. She was like an air traffic controller with her little walkie-talkie thing on. It was super professional. The thing was amazing. The wedding here was super fun. I mean, you probably went to an Argentine wedding. It was like till 4 a.m, like crazy party. It was so fun. And then the party in the US was a lot more work on my part to hire all the individual vendors. We did it at my mom's house, which was what I'd always wanted. But with that came a lot of extra work to kind of get our house like ready to host a lot of people. So by the end of it, I was so done.
Why Stephen also start like 3-4 p.m. and so at night.
We started at 5, I think.
No, 4 by the ceremony.
We had to like take pictures and stuff.
We were ready 3:30.
We had to start taking pictures like at 3. The wedding, technically the ceremony was at 5. Yeah. I think at one point I looked at the dance floor and it was like 10 something, and a lot of people had left. And we were, what the hell? Like the wedding here was just getting going at 10. Yeah. A lot of people had trickled off. We had some older guests. We still had like a small crew where we had like a solid dance party until 11:30 when the band left. Then we went to the beach and had a bonfire. It was really fun, but a very different vibe.
Especially in the US, you took care of everything, Elle. So you had even though if I kind of compare both weddings, the Argentinian wedding, it seemed like you were kind of guests at your own wedding as well. Like so you were able to enjoy it, and you were just like, okay, let's just see what's happening next. And okay, everyone is having fun. Amazing. So let's just dance. While in the US, you had a tight time schedule. At least this is also how we celebrate weddings in Germany, that everything has a time schedule and you have to have everything in mind. And it's kind of micromanaging and you have to be on top of it. Yeah. You can't really switch to party mode or I'm the bride mode and we're just here celebrate love, family, friendship, because you're more aware of that everything will run smoothly. How was it for you in the US?
Because I had a wedding planner, I had to do all that stuff up to the wedding. But then on the day of the wedding, I was just like, you just take the wheel. And the wedding planner kind of did all that, like who goes where when. And I also think because we did 2 weddings, I only had so much mental capacity for all this. So even though I had to plan the US wedding, I don't think I was too bright. So I think I chose wisely, like what was important and what I didn't care about so much. We didn't have a wedding party. It was just the 2 of us. There was a lot of things where I was like, I don't want to tell people what to wear. I was mindful about what was important and what I just didn't have the bandwidth to plan. So for me, the music was really important. Like at the wedding here in Argentina, we had a DJ, but I basically made him like, so that for certain parts of it, I was like, here's the playlist, play these songs at this time. And I was pretty particular about that. And then for the rest of it, play what you want.
But it is different because everything is estimated. I know 2 a.m. we're gonna do this and this and that, and then it's 3 a.m. Okay. Well.
Yeah, nothing really happened. But at that point, I didn't even know where we were. Yeah. So I think the music was something that I was kind of particular about, like what songs were played when, especially for the ceremony. And yeah, so I think it helped me be like more chill, I think, because we had done it twice.
We enjoyed the time.
We had fun.
In that matter, it was better because the first time we were running,
it felt more, the first one felt like a big party, but I think also because we did this first dance. Yeah. And so we took dance lessons, which was really fun. Yeah. But I think we both felt a lot of pressure to do the first dance. And I think we didn't really relax until we did our little performance and now we can let loose.
Yeah, but still, remember the regional planning was like, you have dinner for 45 minutes, and then the women come to us, okay, you have 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like that. Because it was activities. You have to do this, you have to do that, the pictures, it takes like an hour, every single table come to us. Everyone else has like an hour and a half to it, but you have 20 minutes.
Yeah, because the photographers did it. We had like professional photographers. There were like a team of like 5 or 6 people. I felt like I was paparazzi.
Yeah, we have security guys also.
We felt really VIP.
Every time I go to the bathroom, one guy was behind me. And I didn't realize until 1 hour after. Yes, I sent Rodolfo to guard you. Well, you have to follow him.
What?
We both had. She also had. It's like they are attach you a security guide to you. So if you, let's say, miss at some point, you distract whatever talking so long to someone, they send this guy to bring you to the floor, literally. Yeah. So it's all the time kind of. I think it's for the party. It's not for being your bodyguard. It's telling you for the planning, for the party itself. I mean, everything has a schedule. But it was funny. I was in the bathroom. I said, "Who is this guy?" No, this guy comes with you.
I think I both relatively laid back people, so that helped. And the fact that I didn't get too worked up. On top of all this, we had the 2 weddings. Between our 2 weddings, I got pregnant and then I had a miscarriage. So that also took my energy down a bit. My mom has dementia, she's losing her memory. So like those things that were happening around all this, I just picked my battles in terms of how much, like I think those are like, there's all the pictures on the website and the Instagram, but then there's also the reality of your life behind the scenes of a wedding. And those 2 things were definitely part of our lives last year too, which I think helped give a little perspective to everything.
First of all, I'm sorry that you've made this experience. I totally understand what you mean, like focusing on the things that are important, health, friendship, love, and having a good time in general, as long as you can. I understand that the time between the one wedding and the other wedding might have been quite challenging, but I'm happy that you were able to celebrate all together, having a good time, bringing families together. Your family, Elle, when celebrating in Argentina, were they able to come as well? Or is that the reason why you had one wedding here and the other one in the US?
I think it was part of it. So my mom didn't, my brother and sister came. My dad's been passed away for a long time. My mom, it was just like, it would have been really way too much for her to come down here. So my brother and my sister came with their partners and a couple friends. They all were here for like a week before, and we did various activities and some asados with Fedi's family. That was actually super fun. We went on a boat trip one day. That was really fun. They had time to get to know each other a little bit. By the night of the actual wedding, they were already all friends and hanging out. Yeah, so we did asados, of course. So that was really fun. Then Fedi has 2 brothers. One of his brothers came to the US and his mom and dad. What was super helpful, actually, was that 2 of Fedi's mom's brothers, his uncles, live in the US. So I didn't have to worry about them. Fedi's mom and dad don't speak English. They flew to New York and got picked up by Fedi's uncles. They were like a self-contained unit. They all rented their own house together. So that made, like, it just made so much easier. They all could, like, and plus all the cousins got to see each other. So that was super fun. Because in the US, we have a tradition, usually the night before the wedding, we do something we call the rehearsal dinner, where usually you do a walkthrough of the wedding, and then the groom's family will host a dinner. So I was trying to get Fedi's family to do the rehearsal dinner. It ended up being super informal. They're good cooks. So it was like, here's the credit card, go to BJ's, get a bunch of stuff. And they cooked up like an awesome feast.
Yeah.
Vitel Toné. I don't know if you ever had Vitel Toné. And empanadas. It's like 2 of my favorite things. And everyone loved it. So that was really fun. Yeah, your family was a big hit. If mom and dad had come just like independently without his uncles there, I would have been way more stressed about the language difference and how to manage for them. But I think because they were such a big kind of unit on their own, it was perfect.
But I'm sure at some point during the celebration, they integrated and mingled with everyone else. And then at some point, the language is just like, doesn't matter anymore. So as soon as you bring it to the dance floor, it's just like, whatever.
I had unfounded fears at one point of like the other movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, with my family being the more waspy, white, like uptight family, and then his family being the like big, loud Greek family, and my mom, being kind of the crazy lady. None of those fears came true. Everything was really fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that's still something we're missing out on, like bringing the families together and for Nacho's mom and my parents to meet. And we hope that this is going to happen soon because I'm also very curious how this will play out, honestly. It might go the one or the other direction, honestly. Obviously, it's gonna be fun. So you were talking about your plans of moving soon. You bought a house, which you are very excited about, but also quite afraid.
It's exciting, but we don't own anything really because we've been living in this furnished apartment. We have a coffee maker, So we've been, now every time I pass a home store, I'm going in and checking things out because I don't know. Like in the US, I know the stores, I know the brands, I kind of know generally what things cost. But here it's like, I don't know. So that feels like an added challenge. It's exciting, but it's definitely a bit of an added challenge of like not really knowing where to start. So I've been like, every time I go in a home store, I'm looking around and like getting a sense of what the styles are, what things look like. I have no idea what's it cost. Like yesterday we went into a furniture. And also the thing is to hear like a lot of the furniture they can customize for you, which isn't really common in the US. And we were like talking to the guy about a couch and you can pick the fabric and you can pick the size, you can pick what color the little legs are and stuff.
We did with this couch as well. It's a challenge, definitely. You have to get used to it because you're not only checking online, you have to go to the stores, invest some time, energy, find the stores somehow via recommendations or just passing by and be like, oh, that looks cute. Let's just walk in there. It's very nerve-wracking if you're not used to that anymore, I realized.
Yes, it's definitely more relational. Like we were chatting with a guy yesterday. It's not just
the owner, explain all the business history.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just like, okay, I want this one. In the US, it's easier. You can just look online, you can order what you want, and it comes. But I think if we have a couch and a mattress, that's a good start. Once we get in there, we can get a better sense of what we need. Because right now we really have like clothes, a French press, and a hot water heater.
The mixer.
Yeah.
We are buying things from the owner of the house, so she's leaving some things like a machine. We have something in the fridge. So it's fine.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day when we went to make the down payment on this house and we were walking around the neighborhood, there's this cute little library near there in Collegiales. And I got emotional when we were in the library because it reminded me of the little library I used to go to when I was a kid. I grew up in New Jersey in the US. I was like, oh yeah, if we have kids, this would be the little neighborhood library we come to. I had those little moments like that where it just hits me, the reality of like raising kids and having a life so far away from the life that I grew up with. I remember one day I got weirdly sad about books because for me, like when I was a kid, reading stories was a big thing. I realized that I don't know like the stories here. I didn't grow up here. So what are the classic childhood books? I don't know them. For some reason, I got very upset about that. And even like, well, we'll get them. But it's like those moments where you realize I'm never going to know all this stuff. Like I could be here a long time, but there's so much culture and history that I'm just never going to know. Eventually, my kids will be teaching me stuff about Argentina.
Most likely.
Because they'll go to school and be part of it.
Yeah, this and also, I guess, with Spanish. I mean, at least this is how I imagine it, because we're in a similar stage where we're planning on having family. And the questions you're asking yourself, it's the same for me, especially when it comes to like, I'm already thinking about making doctor appointments here. How is this going to be? How will I feel? How is the birth going to be? I'm not even pregnant, but those are things I'm asking myself. Who do I want to have in the room with me? Who's going to take care of me? Because, for example, Nacho can't see blood. So that's going to be interesting as well. So I kind of want to have an additional person. I'm not sure if it's going to be my sister-in-law with me holding my hand. How are the doctors going to be? Is it going to be a similar experience as it would be in Germany? I kind of want to have the answer to all those questions. I totally understand your point of view when it comes to raising a kid and not being aware of all the cultural parts, like small things. I think it's going to be challenging when the kids are growing up and you see that they are getting aware of it because they're living here. And they're boteños, while else it's your family and you're just like, there's something like you might be different. At least this is what I'm thinking in a way. Not really different, but it might just feel different here and there when you see that the kids are growing up in the country of your partner. And obviously that's going to be culture-wise a big part of their identity, of their personality as well. And yes, you bring something to the table as well, in my case with my German culture, but they will not fully understand my culture because we're not living in Germany. So I think that's going to be interesting and challenging. And yeah, I understand why you got emotional in the library thinking about it.
Everything you just said about having a kid, I was very much thinking about all that last year. Everything you just said, I was thinking about that too. I don't know the system, and my Spanish is okay, but if I'm in distress, I don't know if I can be. One thing I think is interesting that I've noticed in us and maybe other international couples is kind of like, I don't want to say like power dynamic, but like power dynamic kind of, right? Sometimes like he came to doctor's appointments with me, and I don't know if when we were in the US, he probably wouldn't do that. Sometimes he comes with me to things or helps me with things. Probably in the US, I would not have him help me with. It's helped me become more, I don't want to say dependent is a bad thing. Like it's been a good thing because I need him more to help me with things. Sometimes it's annoying for him. You know, he has to like, I'm like, oh, I don't know what the lady on the bank recording is saying. Like, I need you to do this for me, you know? So he has to do more things for me than he would. But then when we go to the US, it kind of flips because he doesn't know how to drive. So like when we're in the US, like I have to drive us everywhere, or like, you know, so it's interesting to see, depending where we are, how those dynamics shift.
Yeah, as you said, you can only rely on your partner because you will not be able to do everything on your own. I mean, there's a good example on my experience where I had to take my husband to the gynecologist. It was the first time for him seeing what's going on. And yeah, he might have been a little bit overwhelmed, but I needed him to translate because my Spanish is not that good. Same with making appointments. He's the one who's driving because I don't like driving in Buenos Aires. I'm depending on him a lot, which sometimes feels like I'm losing my independency. But then on the other hand, I know we used to live in Germany for a couple of years, and he had to depend on me for a lot of things, such as making appointments. So it's like, depending on the setting, it's either you are driving or your partner is taking the passenger seat or the other way around. I like to think that this is the balance. You would do the same for him, obviously. Mm-hmm. And that's how it works.
I think it's helped me because I've always been a very independent person. So I think in a way it's forced me to be more dependent on you. And it's sweet. I like it when he helps me.
So in terms of, I mean, as I've mentioned, we've talked about your future plans, your short-term future plans. What are your long-term future plans? Do you think, or are you going to stay in Argentina on the long run? Do you have a plan in mind, or plans plural? Or is this just going to be depending on the situation?
No, at some point we have to go to the States for a couple of years, so I am able to get my citizenship. So that I would say, I don't know, 2 years from now or something.
We just did all the paperwork.
I would take some time, and I would take some time in my part to get the citizenship.
Yeah, so we just finished a lot of paperwork this year between the weddings and all that stuff. And then I've applied for my temporary residency here. All I'm doing now is waiting. We just did the green card process. So that just got sent in. So probably going to be like 2 years until we get the invitation for us to do that. And at that point we can decide. I think we have the option to delay it if we
can delay it.
Yeah. So we're kind of just going to see like where we're at when that happens. Because I have friends who married Argentines and never pursued citizenship for their partner in the US. For me, that feels like like a bit risky. I would like us to have total flexibility, that we could live here or there. So it seems like worth it to go through the process. With everything where my mom is at, my sister plays a big role in caring for my mom. It's a lot on her. My thinking is probably at some point, my mom needing more support, my mom needing more support, and his process will kind of coincide and we can live in the US for a little bit. But beyond that, I don't know. We don't have a real long-term plan.
You don't have to have a long-term plan. I mean, it's...
I do think family-wise, it seems it would be easier to raise kids here because my mom can't support in the US. Here we have his mom and dad, his brother, so we just have more family support. The cost of living is less. I see my friends in the US who have kids and it looks really stressful. Childcare is super expensive. It's very isolating. I love the parks here. You go to the park and there's just kids everywhere, and it feels easier somehow here. It just seems like a more like kids are just, you don't have to get a, in the US it's like, well, at least we can get a babysitter. Here, the kids just come along. It feels a little more like less stressful somehow. Or if you like in the US to breastfeed, you need to make like a whole production and go to a special room. Here, it's just like pick up your shirt, pop the kid on your boob. It's everything just feels simpler.
Yeah, definitely. Same for me compared to Germany. I also feel like the setting here for having a family is almost perfect. And I feel like also the way kids are getting integrated in society is just very different to what or how Germany is handling specific things. So I find it very interesting that families go out with their kids at 10 p.m. and they're still awake and they will just sleep when they're tired on a share or whatever. No one cares.
My nephew is sleeping at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the wedding in a chair. Like,
yeah, he was like raging until 2 a.m.
Oh.
And then he just passed out in a chair.
For me, it's definitely different. I think, especially about Argentina, that the kids are involved in everything. For example, if you're at a wedding, everyone is taking care and having an eye on your kid. So it's not like this is the mom, you have to take care of your kid, and that's it. You have to take care of bringing the kid to bed at, I don't know, 7 p.m. because it has a routine, and then it's complaining and it's not tired and it wants to party as well. It wants to dance as well. And here it's more like, yeah, just party with us until you can't anymore. There's a chair or there's a couch and sleep if you're tired. So I find it very easygoing, very relaxing. First, it was kind of a cultural shock because the nieces and the nieces of Nacho, they're quite young, or they were quite young when we met. We would go out at 9 p.m. to have dinner, and the kids would just run around in the restaurant, around the chairs, below the tables. If this would happen in Germany, people would for sure, 100%, the other guests, they would complain. That's just a no-go. They'd be like, oh, you don't have your kids under control. They need to have some boundaries. And he is just like, oh, cute. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, who are you? What's your name? Like, they're engaging with the kids. And I find that very interesting and very lovely. It's very kid-friendly and very heartwarming as well. So, yeah, one last question I have before we end the conversation. What's your advice for everyone who, is dating in a similar or is in a relationship in a similar setting as you are? If you could share one advice each, what would it be?
Persistence. You have to be persistent and tolerant also, and understanding.
That, I would echo that. And because I guess I have expat friends here who are dating and they're sort of like, well, I don't know, what's the point? Like, we're not from the same country. I'm like, you just never know. I think you would have to just be open. Then they look at us, right? I mean, we're different, but we're very compatible. And I think, what are the odds? Like, in all the bajillion people in the world, what are the odds that we even met? That I was here? I don't know if I was even fate, but I think you need to just be open to what could happen. And if you get really rigid about like, well, they're not from the same country as me, or come up with all these ideas why it might not work, you kind of close yourself off from the possibility of being open to what could happen. And then, like you said, persistence, because I think any long-term relationship takes a fair amount of persistence, dedication, work, understanding. We throw in a cross-cultural thing. I think that adds to that. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about this. Like, I also think, well, on the one hand, it's more challenging. On the other hand, you are perhaps a bit more forgiving or a bit more open because you don't know, like, are they being an asshole or is this just a cultural thing? There's a little bit more openness to what they're showing because you can't filter it or judge it as much through the lens of what you understand, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense.
I have found myself to be much more open to who he is as a true person, because if someone from the US tells me what university they went to, what town they grew up in, or what kind of job they have, I have all these like preconceived filters through which I place people in boxes, kind of, But because I can't do that with him, the things he's experienced don't mean as much. I don't have a meaning to them. So I just take him at more face value, if that makes sense.
And especially when you live in the country of your partner, that's just giving you another perspective. And this is the experience I am making right now. I understand a lot of things much better than I did before. And it's like a whole picture finally coming together. Yeah.
Because you guys were first in Germany and then you came here and you were like, oh, this is why.
Yeah, so we had like the first, like we were living together in Miami. So I moved to Miami for Nacho. He was living there at that time. So it was kind of neutral ground. And then we moved to Germany. I was the one that took care of all his appointments, made sure that he's integrated. I tried to take him to all events. He learned the language, for example. He has a very good level of German now with that. He integrated himself more and more to the community. Now that we're here, it's just like the opposite. It's very interesting to see, again, where he's coming from, the way he grew up, for example. I also understand because we see each other. I see his family almost weekly. And then you have conversations and deep conversations about their childhood as well. And all of that is playing a big, big part. I think that's very interesting that after 8 years, I'm finally, as I've mentioned, that I'm finally able to make one of it, and that it's all making sense in a way, you know. Before you can only guess why the person is behaving the way they do and have an open communication about that. But once you have the cultural aspect as well, it's just a whole other level. What I love as well is that because we used to live in Germany and now we're living here, our personalities changed again. I grew over myself. Nacho did while living in Germany, especially learning German. That's very difficult. German is a very, very difficult language. And we've all mastered, like you're growing as a couple, but also as individuals. And never ever would I have thought that life will bring us where we are nowadays. I love every single aspect of it, but it took some time.
Yeah, maybe who knows if we'll be here. And we've also talked about wanting to live in Europe at some point, or,
Yeah.
I mean, and we both like to travel. Maybe in 8 years, I'll be like, I never thought we'd be in Japan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to come to an end, and thank you so much for your time. It was great talking to you, and I wish you all the best for your future plans, especially
you.
now that I know that you're gonna live very close
be
very
neighbors.
soon. We're gonna be neighbors. I hope that we'll be able to meet each other in person soon. Please take care.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you so much for watching and or for listening to today's podcast episode. And as always, you will find their contact details in the side note as well as in the description of the video. If you like what I'm doing, please don't forget to rate the podcast wherever you're listening to it. Subscribe on YouTube. And if you're not following me yet, you will find many more stories on International Love Story on Instagram, where I also share some insights about our life here in Buenos Aires, me as an expat again. Please take care and besitos. Bye!